All right, I believe we're live. Thank you for being here. I'm your host, Alex Lipton, Video Shaman. If you're new to the channel, you can like this video. If you're feeling so inclined, you can subscribe to my channel. I highly encourage you do, and click that notification bell so that you're notified anytime I got a live stream. I'm reporting to you live downtown San Diego right now, about to go to the TCCHE event here downtown. It's third time I've been at this event. For anyone that's unaware, it's just a conference about consciousness, spirituality, science, all sorts of esoteric wisdom, meditation, yoga, and all that great stuff. My uncle Bruce comes here and does a talk. This is the third time coming now. Greg Braden, if you haven't heard of him, definitely check him out. Anita Morjani, Michael Beckwith. It's going to be a really cool event. Always really exciting to see my uncle give a presentation. And I believe he'll be talking about evolution and biology belief and spirituality. If you haven't heard of my uncle, you can go to brucelipton.com, learn a little bit more about him and what he's all about. Science of epigenetics and how to control your behavior using your perception. It's kind of a it was a controversial subject for a very long time, but now it's becoming much more common practice to understand that this world is actually controlled by our biology, our perception of our biology, as opposed to just your genes and your DNA. So you can learn more about it that way. But I want to thank everybody for returning. If you're returning guests, and if you're new, highly high praise to all of you for being here. I'm very grateful. I like to start these live streams off with just a little prayer for gratitude. Just want to give thanks for all the things that we take for granted: the air that we breathe, the water we drink, the food that we eat, the land that we're standing on, for all of our friends and our family, and especially for all of the people we have yet to meet in our lives who may give us a little reflection about our own divinity or something that we have yet to learn about ourselves and our relationship to each other and our relationship to the world. Most importantly, I want to give thanks to have gratitude for our freedom, the freedom we have. And freedom is so much more than just the ability to choose whatever you want, do whatever you want. Talk about this every time. I think it's important, though, that freedom is more about understanding the choice to be in balance between the polarities of our world, and specifically the balance in the polarity of doing and being. I'm really happy to be doing these live streams more regularly instead of planning them out and doing like video edits, which I will continue to do. The idea of just going live and just being in the moment and just doing what comes naturally to you. So thank you all for being here. I would like to talk today a little bit about something that I've discussed before on my TikTok channel. You can go and subscribe to my TikTok account at Secret Wizard Shaman. I've got a lot of videos of stuff that hopefully will still be up there. Hopefully the TikTok thing stays up. If not, I'm sure we'll find a way to adapt and continue sharing content and sharing our awareness with each other, because I think that that's just so important. Any way we can do that. We don't agree with censorship here on this channel, even though we have to play by certain rules you know, it's just the world we live in. But like I said, I would like to talk a little bit about something called Satanism. Satanism is important to talk about, I think, today, because it gives us context on what is this oppressive force that we're living with in the world today. A lot of the chaos that we find ourselves in seems random, but in reality, there is some sort of design behind it. And when Satanism comes into the play, we often will think about it in terms of a religious point of view, like God versus Satan, like the devil with the horn living in hell that wants to tempt you into doing things that are out of harmony with life. But Satanism, as I've learned from a great teacher in the occult field named Mark Passio, which I would love to show more videos about once I get the StreamYard service all set up a little bit more professionally. I'll be able to cut to some of these great videos. Oh, looks like I've got a friend here. I'm going to, let's see, the Seth Gecko. Evening, Shaman. Well, evening to you as well. Really happy to have you on here. But thing about Satanism, I think it's interesting because when you take it out of the religious point of view and look at it strictly from a philosophical point of view, the best takeaway about it is this paradigm of master-slave mentality. And there are four main pillars of Satanism that I learned about from Mark Passio, but they're important to bring up here. These four pillars give us a sense of maybe why the world seems so chaotic now. And It's not by accident. The first one is this idea of egotism, the idea of me, 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 whatever works for me, damn be all. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want, screw the rest of the world. Even this more deeper philosophy of sophism, which gets often misconstrued in the new age world, where you get this idea of self-help, this polarity between self and others. I'm going to take care of myself and do what works for me and screw anybody else. It's an idea too in like survival of the fittest. There's winners and losers. It's like whatever I got to do to win is all that matters. This is the world we find ourselves in today. And it's a big misperception about evolution, about survival of the fittest and the struggle for life. It's this difference between competition, like the way we think of it, winners and losers. But in reality, it's more about evolution's about cooperation, striving together for a common goal. This is completely the opposite of what like Darwinian evolution is all about. And, it gives rise to things like wars, two conflicts, or a big conflict where two sides are fighting. Whoever wins, it doesn't matter. Oftentimes you have one hidden group that's going to be influencing both sides of a conflict, and whoever wins or whoever loses, it doesn't matter, because this hidden group is going to be profiting off the whole situation because it serves them. That's egotism. Whatever works for me, screw everybody else. A really big second pillar of Satanism is this idea of moral relativism. Think of morality in terms of, well, there's right and there's wrong. And yes, there is an interesting takeaway from this. Like, it's relative, right? I mean, there is relativity to one person's perception of truth versus another perception of truth from somebody else. Everybody has their own perceptions, and it doesn't mean one's right or one's wrong. Everyone has their own idea of it. But there is a sense of morality. There is behavior that enhances the group or enhances the individual. And then there's behaviors that really bring people away from each other and hurt people. So if there's no such thing as right and wrong, it also feeds into this idea of egotism, that you can do whatever you want, and basically just kind of gives credence to this whole idea that it's just no one really, it doesn't really matter. Like, nothing really matters in the world if there's no right or wrong. And this is part of the idea, again, of which leads into the next pillar of Satanism, which is more social Darwinism. This is the idea of winners and losers in the struggle for life. This Darwinian concept doesn't mean evolution's wrong. It's like a misperception of evolution. Social Darwinism is a really good way to look at that is if you look at World War II and the idea that there's certain groups of people that are more empowered by other groups of people. You can take over a whole country as long as it's like you're the winner. And the fourth pillar of Satanism, all these things kind of tie into each other as well. But the fourth pillar of Satanism, we can see it in our world today, and we've seen it in the past. It's the idea of eugenics, that you can socially condition a population, get rid of certain groups of people that you find to be unworthy of this master mentality of like, there's the top winners and everybody else is the loser. If you kill off the people that you find disagreeable or just not good, you can have a master race. That's what we have. I mean, eugenics was actually formed in the United States and California, believe it or not, back in the late 1800s, and was later adopted by the Nazi world and Hitler and all that stuff. And we're seeing evidence of this even in today's world. I just saw today, which actually blew my mind. This is the reason why I wanted to talk about Satanism. I had no idea, but there's this thing called MAID, M-A-I-D. It's a sanctioned program legally in law. MAID stands for medical assistance in death. The idea that you can actually go to a doctor, go to a clinician, tell them you have depression or you don't feel comfortable in your life, you're impoverished or whatever it is. And the legality of that is broadening so much that basically if you want, you can go to the doctor and say, I'm depressed. And the doctor will say, oh, well, have you tried committing suicide? And the doctor will actually provide medicine for you, poison, and assist in you killing yourself. This is eugenics at its core. It's kind of masked in this idea that, oh, it's a mercy thing. Oh, if you're in so much pain, well, we don't want you in pain. We'll take away your life. But this is just a symptom of a sick society, a society that's based in the satanic world view of social Darwinism, of just let's get rid of the dregs of society and create a socially engineered group of people that are the master race. And so I think I bring this up especially too. If you haven't looked up MAID, you got to really look into this. It's very alarming to me. That's not the answer to thing. All life is precious. All life is valued. This is an opposite point of view of Satanism. It's that we need to come together and recognize that there's a divinity within all of us, and we shouldn't be just enabling each other to just give up. We should be raising each other up. It's the opposite of what competition and the struggle for life's all about. It's about cooperation, striving together for a common goal. We need to be helping each other. And the world that we're seeing today, in terms of the polarities that seem to be so opposite of each other, these are controlled by this hidden group, this hidden religion of master slave mentality, Satanism, that wants to get us to fight each other and to basically cull the herd to create a much smaller population on Earth. Population control is a huge part of this. If you have a smaller group of people in the world, they're much more easily able to, you can easily control them a lot better. And that's one of the things you hear about in the world and the popular culture, that like one of the big problems is that there's overpopulation. We have way too many people on the planet. And the best way to solve this is because the thing is, we got to get rid of everybody in this mindset, because we're going to eat up all the resources and we're killing the planet. We have to save the planet and there's too many people. But really, it's a big misperception. It's a symptom of a deep disharmony with our environment. If we were living more in harmony with not only our internal environment, but our outer environment with each other, then we wouldn't have this system where there's so many people. And then let alone, it's not about getting rid of all the people. It's actually, if you shift your perception about this, I talked about this on another live stream, that the fact that there's so many people on the planet is actually a really good thing, because we have more connectivity between individuals that can share awareness, therefore embrace our wisdom and cultivate wisdom, than ever before on this planet. I've mentioned before, there's this like spiritual perception. I think I heard about it from a great ufologist, channeler guy named Alex Collier, that the reason there's so many people on the planet is because what's happening right now is of such great importance, and there's such a magnitude to the shift that we're about to experience, that anyone who has ever been on planet Earth that's made an impact or had such a learning experience here, that they wanted to be back here for this time to take part in this experience. So it's not about cutting the people out. It's about changing our belief and changing our perception, changing our relationship to it. And the thing will happen to heal automatically. So it's even the word Satan is, we have to try to get out of this religious point of view. It's a mentality of an adversarial relationship. If we treat our environment with an adversarial mindset, the world will reflect that. The world will start to fight back against us. But if we start to live in light and we start to live in harmony, then this whole world will start to reflect that. So it's important, I think, especially now, because when it seems like so crazy and chaotic, it's not. It seems like it's an accident, and we see it as a problem, and it is a crisis. But we need to recognize the opportunity in the crisis. Think of it again like this idea of a metamorphosis between two organisms. We have a caterpillar and we have a butterfly. The old world is the caterpillar, the new world is the butterfly, but it doesn't just automatically shift into a butterfly. It goes through a metamorphosis state called a cocoon or a pupa. And this is where the caterpillar goes into a shell where the cells inside of this organism start to break down. And if you were inside that inside that pupa, it would look like the world is falling down around you. I mean, there's no more food coming in. The walls are breaking down, and everything inside this cocoon literally turns into a soup. It's chaos all around. That's what the world we're in right now. But what's amazing is that within this chaos, the cells start to observe the DNA, they observe the field from a different perception. Instead of looking at the pattern in the field of a caterpillar, they start to see the pattern of a butterfly and start to coalesce and converge into a new organism, a new structure within. That's where we're at right now. Not every caterpillar turns into a butterfly. Also, by the way, it's an interesting process where kind of like there's a lot of unknown conditions that can lead to that. But what's great is that in this moment, in our collective cocoon right now that we call our present moment, we can start to come together in community. Recognize that you have a community within you. And if you come into harmony within yourself, you're going to start to see harmony outside as well. And then we start to coalesce, and you'll start to see that there are other people in the world, you're not alone, that are having this spiritual awakening, if you will, right now. They're starting to shift out of the satanic mindset of scarcity, of survival of the fittest, of egotism, of winners and losers. And they're starting to see that maybe we're all in this together. Everybody's different, but we all share some common ground. That's the big shift that we need to recognize right now, is that before we start to see all the differences, which there are, and we want to recognize that there is diversity, before we get into the differences, let's start to recognize the common ground. That's why I start every live stream off with a prayer for gratitude for all the things that we take for granted, because every human being shares in these very basic things. Even though we differ in so many ways, we share in the fact that we all need air. We all need water. We all need to eat food. These are really basic things that we take for granted, but and it really gives us a sense of our relationship to the environment. If we learn to take care of our environment better, then all of those things are going to make us thrive a little bit better. So it's like we overcomplicate things in our world, especially when we see things in terms of separateness and me versus you and masters versus like slaves and master mentality. When we start to take our power back and realize that we don't have to choose between master and slave, we can transcend this whole thing and take power back in our own lives and share it. When you learn this truth, you want to share it with other people, or you can use it to exploit other people as well. That's your choice. But when you start to, if you want to help the world, you have to, this is a cliche thing, but be the change you want to see in the world. This is the whole indigenous mindset of I see myself in you, in Lakesh, aloha, all my relations. We go through this big change of the metamorphosis between a caterpillar and a butterfly in our own lives. And then we become the mirror that reflects that back to other people. It's not always easy to let go when people are not making those changes in the way that you want them to happen. But that's the whole letting go of this master slave mentality. Anytime we point our fingers out at the world and say, oh, they're the ones that are messed up, they're the problems, if we just get rid of those people or we get rid of that belief, go out and change those things out there, it's like, again, one of those cliche things. When you point your finger out, you're pointing 3 back at yourself. We have to really take responsibility in this world. And the satanic mindset is the opposite of taking responsibility. It's about throwing away your responsibility and blaming the world outside of you. That's our big misperception. And we're all participating in it. If we stop participating in it, if we stop being forced into this false choice, then we might have a shot here to transcend this situation. It's not about going down one path or the other. We've been victimized for so long. And oftentimes the revolution is like, I've been victimized and now I'm in a position of authority. I'm going to inflict that pain and suffering onto other people because that's what happened to me. And that's all I know. We have a choice point to not go down one path or the other, but to stop and reflect, turn around and reflect on the journey that brought you here. And these really great, simple things like forgiveness, compassion. If we learn to forgive ourselves, we learn to forgive each other, we forgive our past even, then really an amazing transformation can happen. And it starts with you. It starts with you. And the more that you take these little incremental steps to make these changes, the more you're going to start to see it happen in your outer environment. So let's see here. We've got some live chats. I want to bring you in. I feel like I'm going a little rant, but that's how it is. Let's see here. I think you can literally feel evil instinctually. We can feel someone look at it. I feel the heaviness, the oppressive feeling reflects all the negativity and the evil in the world. That's a really important point. It's like I struggle with this idea of like, recognizing that it's all good. It's all one. If that's true, then there is no evil. Evil is something we create. And at the same time, yes, there is evil. Look at the reverse. If you put evil into the mirror, it's just live backwards. It's anti-life. And that there are forces of anti-life. We often blame the individuals, though. We blame the physical things, the people we see. Oh, these people are evil, but it's really the programming. We only enact what we've been programmed to do. And it's just, like the DNA point of it. It's like, oh, well, I've got cancer running in the family because my parents had cancer, so I'm going to get cancer. Well, we blame it on the genes. But then if you look at the programming as well, it's like the people that are enacting all of the evil and oppressive stuff in the world, well, they've been programmed to do that. It's not them, it's their programming. Again, it's like we follow the chain of command all the way into the past or all the way into our DNA. Where's the root cause of it? I think we have to like really start to work together and try to reconcile this paradox that it is all one and it is all part of this wonderful design of learning and creativity. And at the same time, we need to isolate what is that problem? What is that oppressive force in the world? That's why I like to bring up Satanism, because it's like when you look at it from that point of view of instead of like the religious thing of like the devil did this, the devil tempted Eve. And it's like we look at this from a religious point of view. We kind of lose the sight of the like what is the real root cause of it. It's this belief about me versus others, me over others. This idea of just like there is no such thing as right or wrong, so you can do whatever you want. If we recognize that, then we can start to see really clearly like who's perpetrating that and why are they perpetrating that. We need to have accountability in the world, and there are Satanists. This is the thing, is that there is actually a religion of Satanism. And this is the guy Mark Passio I was listening to. He was a satanic priest ordained in the Church of Satan. And there's an actual Church of Satan, if you're not aware, but there's also the Temple of Set and all these different denominations, just like any religion. But the further up, it starts off at the lower levels, like, oh, this is just kind of like all about self-help and stuff. And, like live and let live. But the deeper you get into the religion, just like a lot of religions, you start to realize that this is a much darker, more insidious thing. So this guy got a deep into the Church of Satan, started to realize that all of the stuff that they were saying didn't exist in terms of human sacrifice, in terms of doing horrible things in the planet, and just kind of like horrible intent, casting horrible intent onto the world. He got out, and ever since then, he's been exposing all of this stuff, and it really blew my mind to really just like think about it. It wasn't that long ago that religion and the government were the same thing. And, I really do believe they are in a lot of ways still. We kind of just recently, in the last couple hundred years, got this perception of separation of church and state. But religion does inform the government. And there is a secret religion that is permeated its tentacles all throughout aspects of society, the intelligence agencies, the government, the media, all this stuff. And their rituals are absolutely everywhere. If you have the eyes to see them, they're pretty clear as day. It's all those things I was telling you before. It's just this whole idea of master slave mentality and controlling the population. And we have to, if we want to solve the problem, first we have to recognize there's a problem. Once we recognize there's a problem, then we can maybe start to heal from it. We just have to be very mindful that we're not participating in it. And that's why we have to think about the polarity. What's the opposite of this competition? It's about cooperation. It's about compassion. It's about forgiveness. And it dissolves the problem just as simply as from the movie A Wizard of Oz, where you had this evil witch and all they had to do at the very end was pour water on it and it dissolved all the way. It's like, instead of fighting this thing, we have to learn to like transcend this thing and wash this thing, clean it, because it's a reflection of ourselves. Heal yourself if you want to heal the world around you. Let's see what we got here. Another comment. I was talking to my son about how normalized it seems to have become to be, for lack of a better word, mean. The honest question I pose is, why can't people be nice and decent? That's absolutely, that's a great question to be asking. And the thing is my grandma would say, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it at all. It's a very simple thing. These are like it's like common sense. But I think people feel a lot of the time like due to this idea of being victimized, having to, you have to fight back, there's that whole idea of turn the other cheek, it's like for so long we've been turning the other cheek that we're getting beaten down. And sometimes people feel the need to rebel. It's baked into our mythology as well with the ancient Greeks and the whole idea of Zeus and the Titans, where you have the Olympians who were the lesser gods and the Titans were the upper gods. And the Titans would Kronos, which is personified as the planet Saturn, actually. But Kronos would, every time his children were born, he would eat them in the mythology because he wanted all the power. But then his wife was able to trick him into eating some rocks instead of eating his children one day. And these kids grew up, and this became later became the gods of Mount Olympus. You have Zeus and Poseidon and Hades. And what did they do? Because they were, being oppressed by these, patriarchal gods and everything, they rose up and fought back and took over and punished the Titans, put them into this place called the Tartarus, which is like hell. And then these younger gods, they ascended to the realm of Mount Olympus and they became the new gods, like new management. The old management went down and the new management came up. This is a really, there's truth to the actual mythology based in some real events, but we mythologize it for a reason because it reflects something going on within us. A lot of times we're being mean because that is like a defense mechanism, because how punished and tortured we've been for so many generations. We're talking thousands of years here. But the thing is, there's a difference between revolution and evolution. We're going to keep repeating these cycles over and over again in our personal lives, in our civilization, until we learn to rise above it. If you're looking at this as a circle, we go around, we come to the same point. We go around, come to the same point. This is the hero's journey of going, starting off at home, going into the realm of darkness and finding a purpose to rise back up. And then you're back where you started, going round and round and round. That's a revolution. But if we expand our sense of perception to be holographic and look at that like in a three-dimensional sense and look at it from above, or look at it from the side even, depending on how you look at it, it's more of like a spiral. So it looks like we're going round and round. But the moment we shift our perception and we see it from this other point of view, it's a spiral. So there's that saying, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And we're at one of those rhyming points right now where we have the triggers to behave the way that we were in the past. But unless we shift our perception, we're just going to think that we're in like a time loop and we're just going to keep doing this. Well, we're victims of our past. We're victims of we're just victims. But if we realize that we're not victims and we shift our perception, we don't have to repeat the history. We can just use this as an opportunity to learn from it. It's here for a reason, to teach us. So it's kind of exciting. It's an exciting time, and everyone has the opportunity right now to change the way we act. We can't, again, this really builds into this idea that we can't really change what happens to us. We can't change what happened in the past. We can't necessarily see what's going to happen in the future. But we can change how we respond to the situation. We can change how we respond to the past. We can change how we respond to the things that happen to us. And that is where our true power comes in. That's where the true choice comes in. It's oftentimes we're trying to change the world, change other people, change the behavior, change the future. We got to change the world. Well, maybe the world is fine. Maybe this is exactly the right conditions we need in order to change ourselves. Let's change how we react to the situation. If you were mean to somebody, or if somebody was mean to you, you could learn forgiveness. You can learn to not let it trigger you. You can change your environment. If you find yourself in a situation where someone's being mean to you, or you're going to be mean to them, don't get involved. This is like the martial arts of Tai Chi. It's like the art of not being there. If something is going to come at you, instead of trying to block it or fight back, you can just, like water, flow out of the way and let this thing move past you. And this is really what it's all about. It's very simple. So I think, we can go forward, we can go backwards, we can go side to side. But I think the real opportunity right now is to go inward. And that's what's so hard for people. I know that's hard. It's been hard for me a lot of times because it requires a sense of responsibility, looking into the mirror, so to speak, and reflecting on your past, reflecting on your being. and realizing that a lot of the things that have happened to us, it's like instead of running from them, we need to accept them. And when we learn to accept them and merge with our, not mistake our reflection for who we are, and just see it as a reflection and start to relax and heal. And I'll end with this metaphor. Since we're talking about mirrors, there's this really interesting phenomenon with people that have phantom limb syndrome. This is, if you haven't heard of it, when somebody, let's say, is an amputee, if they were in war and their arm gets blown off or something horrible happens and they don't have an arm anymore. A lot of times these people will feel pain where their arm once was, even though there's no arm there. It's like a gripping pain, but there's no arm. So like if there's something going on in the brain, because obviously you can't feel where that is. So there's a lot of interesting techniques and struggles with how to deal with this. But the one that I find the most amazing and interesting is it's very simple, uses a mirror. So what they'll do is they'll have the person with phantom limb syndrome sitting down at a table and they put up a mirror where the person's arm, let's say their right arm is gone. They put up a mirror where their right arm would be. And all they would do is the therapist would have the person use peripheral eye exercises where they would be looking off into the distance. So out of their peripheral vision, they're looking at what now appears to be their right arm. It's a reflection of their left arm. Even though their arm's not there, just due to this exercise in their peripheral vision, the pain in their arm goes away because it sends a signal to the mind like, oh, there's my arm and there's nothing there. They'll have the person like someone will touch the left arm and there's a reflection of that happening in the right. And it just, all it does is it lets go of the phantom vice of pain. And what was the key takeaway of this? All it was to resolve the pain of this past trauma was a mirror and changing your perception, changing your perspective of the scenario. And having somebody there to help you with it. If we come together in community, that's a big part of it. We need to recognize that community is the driving force of evolution. Relationship is the driving force of positive change in the individual. You can have a relationship with yourself. You can have a relationship with other people, a relationship with your environment. It's not about one versus the other. It's not about self versus other or right versus wrong. It's about the relationship between these two. Because without the relationship, then we have no context of what any of it means. You can't have good without bad. You can't have bad without good. But we don't have to ping pong between these two. We don't have to be the monkey in the middle manipulated into having to run back and forth. We can stop playing the game. The best way to deal with this situation of the crazy, chaotic world of pain, suffering, and being mean to other people, being inflicted upon by this victim consciousness, is we could just stop, turn around, walk away. And it doesn't mean giving up. It just means changing our perception because there's a much more harmonious world waiting for us when we start to do that. So let's see what we got here. Jesus Christ is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Ah, yes. Well, that's what I hear. That's what I hear. I actually grew up as a Roman Catholic, and my dad's side of the family is Jewish. So I got to really see a kind of a lot of different perspectives on faith and spirituality and consciousness and what Christ means and all that. And yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about Satanism. You can't not bring up what Christ means, but Christ is the light and the way. And we all have what this great master, this great teacher taught us, is that he's like, what I can do, you can do as well. If there was ever a great mirror to reflect back some of the most important stuff to us, it is that. And so we can't have this evolution in our consciousness unless we have that polarity. So let's stop fighting. Let's stop fighting and resisting and start being the change we want to see. This is cool. We're getting comments here. What do we got here? Give your money to people who use it better than kids like this to stay in nice hotels regurgitating the internet. Yeah, okay. Well, I appreciate that comment. It is important to give. But you know what? If you want to have a positive change in this world, you have to recognize that you don't have the whole picture. If you think you know what's best, you should be the change you want to see in the world. So I really appreciate everyone for being here. and having the opportunity to share kindness with each other and learn to give, learn to bestow. It's the best way. It's the best way to heal on this planet. Everyone can do a little bit right now. So thank you all. Really appreciate you. If you have fear in your heart, learn to let it go, please. It's very important. And I want to say thank you again and remind each other to let's be grateful for the things we take for granted. Be nice to each other. Be well. And we'll do another live stream next time. Thank you so much, everybody. Peace up.